Future's now, old man.
What it do, kangaroo? This is the Future First podcast where we're helping you win the day with a future first mindset. I'm your host, Jmac. This with my co-host is Jose. How you doing tonight, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing real good, man. I am excited for what we got on tap tonight. It's gonna be a good episode here. How about you?
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Took a little break. It's good to be back. We're 1 week away, literally less, a couple weeks away from actual football being played. So, the season started. This is when, it's crunch time now.
Yeah, man. Hopefully some 49ers will be healthy by the time the season starts and we'll be able to put 11 players on the field on offense. Uh, But yeah, man, let's get into it. Like and subscribe. We're on Spotify. Drop us a 5-star review. Hit that like button. And yeah, hopefully we can get us up here on Apple Pods or music here soon to appease the masses. We've had a lot of people asking about that. I think we'll get that going here. Yeah, just to tease the episode here, we got a quick hit coming up, and then we're going to talk about players to stiff arm. We're going to talk about some fades on today's show. And then we're going to dive in a little bit too about the Rams and their situation and what's going on with Stafford and that whole mess over there.
Oh, boy.
I know, man. All right, man, let's jump into it. Quick hit. Okay, Jose, we need to talk. Man, we had our draft the other day for the Keeper 10, and I found out you're going around and drafting a lot of Kyle Pitts.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm like, I said it the other day. I can't remember where I was talking to somebody, and I said, I'm like the old person that, hops on the memes when they've been passed. That's kind of what it's like right now. Everybody's really out on Kyle Pitts, which maybe that's the reason I'm in, because you don't actually have to spend much to get him. In most cases, even in dynasty startups, it's, a flyer type of tight end who's still, all the things we know about Kyle Pitts. He's still only like 18 years old. He's, still a supreme athlete. There's nobody else there to compete for targets. So I mean, the Falcons are going to have a top, 12 running back, a top 12 receiver, and a top 5 tight end. I don't even know. It's just everything. No, but I guess a contrarian buy, if you wanted to say it that way, right? Like his value, everybody's completely just done. They're done with the Kyle Pitts experience, and I'm like, all right, it's my turn to get hooked up. So yeah, I mean, I've been drafting him. We've been doing a bunch of these best balls with different scoring settings and stuff. And if I can grab a Kyle Pitts, if I don't get a premium guy, when you look at some of the other guys that you could be drafting, right? Like, does David Njoku have top 1, finish? No, I mean, we've seen it out of Kyle Pitts, right? I mean, it was a one magical season, but that means he can at least do it. At least that's what I'm telling myself at night every time. I'm at the meme of the Wolverine looking at the picture. It's me looking at a picture of Kyle Pitts. So, yeah, man, I'm in. I'm ready to get my heart broken just like everybody else that did like 3 years ago.
like a true junkie, just in denial. And man, like we're worried about you. And I have some people that wanted to reach out and say some things. So why don't we take a look here? I think we got Wookie up first.
All right, Jose, we need to have a serious conversation. It's not about gambling. It's not about drinking. A little darker than that. For 3 straight years, you've fallen into the trap. Kyle Pitts. Every season, you hear that generational talent, and you're teased by seeing him on the draft boards. And then by week 4, you're starting, somebody like Colby Parkinson off the waiver wire. And the whole time you're saying, that was part of my draft strategy. Hey, but listen, Arthur Smith is gone. They took Penix at the 8th overall. Come on. They've got London. They've got Bijan. They've got 1,000 checkdowns to Tyler Algier. You think he's going to look Kyle Pitts' way? No. Don't do that to yourself. Look, there are other options. Look at Laporta. Look at Kittle. Even Hawkinson is a better bet. Okay? Unless, of course, he's still sitting there. Kyle Pitts is sitting there in the 12th. Then, he's a value.
No, Bookie, come on.
I'm begging you.
We're trying to talk him off the ledge.
Don't hurt yourself again. It's a trap. You're just going to ruin another one of your seasons. All right. Take care.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. That was like a disappointed dad, or I guess Wookie's kind of older, so maybe like a disappointed grandpa there, like just trying to pull me out. But, he throws me the little lifeline at the end. Like you said, 12th round, Kyle Pitts still around. I mean, yeah, it's complete blasphemy, but like honestly, with Mooney going down, like generally, like unless if Michael Penix really is good, then Kyle Pitts can have a season. It doesn't take him that much to be a top 5 tight end these days. Like it's he could. I'll just keep telling myself, who else, who's next, who's going to try to talk me. I mean, it's too late. A lot of leagues, it's too late. I mean, even in Toe Clan, I bought in. I traded for him. So
it might be too late, but
I'm in deep.
We're here. We're here for you. We care about you. All right, let's see who we got next. Who's going to try and talk you off the ledge here?
Jose, we got to talk, man. Jose, we're here because we care about you.
Yeah.
We want you to win your fantasy leagues. We want you to bring home that championship.
Thank you.
But how are you supposed to do that in 2025 still drafting Kyle Pitts? I'll tell you how. You draft more Kyle Pitts.
No,
bruh,
Fox.
that Phoenix to Pitts connection is going to be a freaking movie.
No.
Just whatever you do, don't go Google searching for that movie, because that movie does already exist.
Okay. All right,
I
Fox.
found out the hard way.
All right, we got to cut you off.
No,
here,
but
Fox.
seriously, do not.
Fox.
Oh,
man. I thought she was on my side here. I didn't know it was.
Oh, man.
You think you know someone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she was roasting me earlier in the DMs about, Kyle Pitts. And then, and even completely, like, I had no idea that any of this was happening. I'm wearing Falcons colors. Like, this is just too perfect, honestly. Like, this is one of those things that just, when a plan comes together. But yeah, man, I mean, Fox is great. Shout out to her and all the work she does out in the fantasy space.
Yeah, man, she's great. Appreciate you, Fox, for coming on. Maybe next time let's take this intervention a little more seriously. Okay. All right.
I don't know if you got the point of the intervention.
we got one more. All right.
Jose, we need to talk. I need you to sit down and I need you to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, please gather around, because we are here today to stage an intervention for our dear friend, bless his heart, Jose, who still thinks Kyle Pitts is a good fantasy pick. Bro, drafting Kyle Pitts is like buying a treadmill in August, but then it's collecting dust by October. You keep saying, this is the year. Like, we haven't heard that since 2021, bro. Pitts has more hype than production. He's basically the Duke Nukem Forever of fantasy football. He overpromises, and we're still waiting for him to deliver. He might as well be Half-Life 3. The man is 6'6", with a giant wingspan, but he's allergic to touchdowns. Inside the red zone, he turns into the invisible man, bro. I've seen more scoring at a youth soccer game. And let's be real, you're drafting the third option on the third best team in their own division. That's not upside. That's fantasy football self-harm, bro. Meanwhile, waiver wire tight ends like Mr. AARP walking out there with the speed of a walker, Dalton Schultz, is putting up more points than Pitts more reliably. Pitts might be the unicorn of athleticism, but he is the unicorn of failures, bro. He's not a unicorn. He's a My Little Pony. Here's the kicker. At the same ADP, you could take someone who's not the second, maybe the first option on this team, Dalton Kincaid, a guy who actually plays football in the end zone. Or go and grab Jake Ferguson with his nice new contract and save yourself the therapy bills, bro. So please, for your own health, step away from Kyle Pitts. You're not drafting a tight end. You are drafting a disappointment in shoulder pads. Jose, stop it.
See, Mando is a true friend. trying to talk you off the ledge here.
Yeah. Oh man, I did not need the stats reality there with the who was it? Dalton Schultz. Yeah, I mean, all right, I won't draft him anymore. I don't think I have many drafts left, but I won't draft him anymore, guys. You got me.
We
I'm
did it,
coming
guys.
around.
We did it. We did it. No, in all seriousness, this is all just jokes. It's a good time. I thought it'd be a good bit, but I looked, man. I did a little portfolio espionage. I thought you had a lot more Kyle Pitts. Like you have him in 2 places, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if this
Yeah.
bit's gonna land.
I've been trying to acquire him in more places and draft him, but I guess I'm just not that in because every time I want to draft him, somebody else takes him before I'm ready. So, it's one of those things that maybe it's just more talk. I mean, I do believe in him and what I'd consider, our main league or my main league, Toe Clan, I did trade for him. So, hopefully I can play that back to Mando when I'm winning again the championship against him and just, laugh. But hey man, it's a fun ride. I mean, he's one of those players that just has, like he said, like that infinite potential to be good, and you just really wonder why he can't get it together, right? So yeah, I'm not overly exposed like that. Honestly, that one league we took him in was one of the first times I actually was able to draft him. So but yeah, no, it's fun. I appreciate the bit, man. Appreciate all the guys and girls that took their time, send the video in and did that. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was a lot of fun putting it together. Yeah, we were supposed to talk about Brian Robinson and CMC, but no, man, CMC is not dead. Brian Robinson is dead. He's the heir apparent to CMC, so he might have fantasy relevance this year, depending on where CMC goes. But no, man, let's jump into the next segment here. Players to stiff arm. All right, man. Players to stiff arm. Guys, we are keeping at an arm's length. We want nothing to do with them this year. So we're talking kind of specifically redraft here, but we're going to give a little bit of a dynasty take wrapped into it, or I guess woven in, shall we say. Why don't you lead us off, man, with your first guy?
Yeah, so he's a guy that I mean, kind of we were just talking about B-Rob getting traded. He's somebody who got a lot of steam, at least at the beginning. A little cryptic tweet here, news reporting here about trading. Talking about none other than currently New York Jets running back Breece Hall. I was watching a little bit of the Cowboy game and Blue rolled his ankle pretty nasty. I don't know how long that's going to be, but the Cowboys might be maybe back in. I know, they always get speculation about trading for somebody, but yeah, Breece Hall. I mean, his efficiency coming back, right? It was crazy. We fell in love with him before the injury. Then he got the injury. So I'm just not really sold on the offense. I don't love what they're going to be doing with the Jets, right? I don't love that Braylon Allen is getting steamed up. I think that's going to be a decent committee there. And then after that, right, we were talking a little bit further for Dynasty. Where is he going to be playing next year? What's the contract going to look like, right? You're gambling, and I don't think it's the type of gamble that I'm really trying to do right now, either in redraft or in Dynasty. He's not an asset that I'm trying to bank and count on too high. For Dynasty, if you're a rebuilding or a team that's coming out of a rebuild, I think he is a perfect running back to maybe try to stash up. And if he does disappoint, like I'm kind of thinking he might, he could be somebody you could buy low who then turns into a usable running back when you're coming out of a rebuild. Most teams, run back's kind of the last piece, and they're a lot of times hard to get off teams because a lot of times they're already on contenders. So I think he's a guy that if they start slow, if there's a lot of Braylon Allen, it's a more 50-50 split than people maybe are anticipating. I think he's definitely a guy you can jump in, midway through the season in Dynasty and trade and not have to trade a lot for. That you can help you when you're coming out of a rebuild.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on it. Like I'm definitely worried about him this year. I think he's one of those guys that man, he's just so good that if he gets the opportunity, he's gonna crush it. But the opportunity part is the hard part to buy in on. Yeah, I mean, we selected him in our recent, keeper 10 draft where you keep 10 players. I think we got him in the fifth round, and it was more for a future play, and we drafted around it too. We had plenty of running backs to kind of fill that hole that we are expecting him to avoid. But yeah, and future outlook, like I really like the Texans. I think that's a really good landing spot for him next year. That makes a ton of sense. And I'm really kind of rooting for that. And because I mean the Texans, that's kind of what they do. They buy these old vets, coming off their contracts, and they retread and use them. I mean, they did it with Joe Mixon, they did it with Diggs last year. Kind of curious, hoping he goes there.
Yeah, for sure, man. I hadn't given too many thoughts. I think anywhere, if it would all kind of come down to me, like the type of contract he got. But he's also playing for a contract year. I know that matters to people, but like you said, the opportunities is the biggest thing. Like, is he gonna get the opportunity to show what sort of contract he should get? But yeah, man, I think you have a running back of your own that you're a little bit trying to give the Derrick Henry stiff arm to. So who you got?
Yeah, man. I've been pretty vocal about this guy, Caleb Johnson, rookie coming in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, He's 6'1", 224, pretty big for running back. He ran a 4.57, which translates to a 102 speed score, which is, I don't know, it's fine. Like he's meeting the minimum. Any back over like 200 pounds, we really want him above that 100 mark. And he's, barely clearing it. I mean, he's ninth in the class, this year's class for yards created. So that's the sticky stat they're always talking about of these really valuable backs to roster. He had 4.1 in college of yards created per carry after contact, and it's just he's behind guys like Jaden Blue and Bashal Tootin, which I mean they went in late, like we're talking fifth, and Jaden Blue is a seventh rounder. I'm pretty sure. Like it's just wild to see him be selected at what he was. And it's for me, like I was when I watched his film, watching the highlight reel was like, oh man, like this guy's got juice. He can run. And it was really impressive. And then when I went to go turn on the all 22 and and watch every single rep, there was just a lot of him just getting bottled up and bogged down and not having the vision to like find the hole a lot of the time. And he reminded me so much of the style of like Derrick Henry, where he really needs to hit that top gear to really make the home run play. Derrick Henry doesn't survive on that. Like he's big enough where he can bowl you around and get the hard yards. So, but Caleb Johnson isn't that. I mean, he's 220. He's not 240 like Derrick Henry. And because Derrick Henry and Caleb Johnson ran really similar 40s, but because Derrick Henry is 20 pounds heavier, his speed score is a lot higher. Um, so it's just there's a lot of things going into it, and because he had trouble in between the tackles, if he would have landed in like a gap scheme offense, I would have been out. Like I wouldn't even been touching this guy. But he did land in a really good scheme. With Arthur Smith, they run that outside zone. I think he's going to be he'll have a good career or a decent career, right? I think he'll make his living on these big home run plays, and he's going to be really boom or bust, and kind of making his fantasy living off of 3 or 4 big games a year. So there's other problems though. Arthur Smith, we watched him tank Bajan while stuffing Algier full of opportunities. I feel like we're going to get a similar scenario here with Jalen Warren. I think he's going to take a lot away from Caleb Johnson, and enough to where he's not going to be um, like that guy that is going to win you your league this year. But the crazy thing is like when you look at it, he's not being drafted super high. I think like early in the season, before the preseason started, he was going in like the 5th round, and he's had a bad preseason. And I think people are buying into this narrative that I'm saying, and he's slipped, and he's in the 7th round now, which is kind of like, I don't know, like if he falls much further, like he's at a point where I I will take him, but it's like I have to feel really, and I would like to take him in a best ball league, to be honest. Like I don't really want him in a lineup league where I have to know when to plug him in. But even in a lineup league, he has some value because if Jalen Warren gets hurt, he's going to see a lot more volume. He's just going to be Najee with it, what Najee was with his volume. That's what I see him doing, but with a home run upside of him breaking, a 40-yard run at any given time. But it's still not, it doesn't feel good because, I mean, you can draft guys around him like Tony Pollard. Like I'd much rather have Tony Pollard, who's going, like 6 spots sooner than him, with Tajay Spears already injured. I'd even rather swing on ETN because ETN feels like a very similar bet to me. It's this guy who's going to make a living off these big plays, but at least he has like pass catching upside that and he could be the guy in that offense. And even more, Jalen Warren around later. I would rather just have Jalen Warren around later than Caleb Johnson. There's also some nice wide receivers going in that 7th round that I'd like to swing on instead of Caleb Johnson. If we're weaving in dynasty, I think he's a fine player to have on your roster because he has a hive. People believe in him. And I think if he has 1 or 2 blow-up games in a row, you'll be able to flip him for quite a bit. And that would be my approach. If I had him on my roster, I think I have him in one place. I think I grabbed him. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do, is wait for him to have a blow-up game and then dish my shares for whatever I can get. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he was definitely not the running back coming out of this class that I was most excited about once you got out of like the Genties, Hamptons, and Trayvons. He's just, like you said, he's just missing a little bit size to be that bruiser. And then if he's Najee, I guess you just hope he's just slightly more effective and then has those big run ability in him. And then he'll be, if you draft him to be your 3rd running back in a league, I think that's a perfect spot for him. I think if you go 0 running back or like hero running back and he's kind of your 2nd guy, I'm pretty concerned in that scenario. I don't think you're hoping for an injury. And yes, there's something about drafting ambiguous backfields, but it feels like it's not really that ambiguous. I feel like the roles are pretty set. It's a split timeshare, and I'm not even that confident with Arthur Smith, who was giving runs to Cordell Patterson. Like nothing tells me that Arthur Smith just won't turn around and like give somebody else work when you think it should just be Caleb Johnson. Is one of those scenarios where it seems like, if the backfield mate goes down, then you got a bona fide stud. I don't think so. I don't think Caleb Johnson even also profiles as that like type of guy to catch passes either, or that much. So it's just one of those things that I don't think really he would take on that full workhorse load, even if Warren went down. Like you said, I would much rather Pollard for sure, and then the other like wide receivers in that range I feel are much better for how I'm building teams than a guy like Caleb. I think I have him 1 dynasty league, and that was just because he was kind of the leftover running backs towards that end of the 1st, beginning of the 2nd. And I felt like, better him than some of the later wide receivers. But yeah, man, I'm with you on it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Where are you at on your next players to farm here?
Yeah, so this one might be a little bit spicy, and I definitely want to preface it by making sure we're not don't hear what I'm not saying. Like, I think this guy's uber talented, but I think there's it's specifically right now in redraft where he's going. I think there's just other options, and some of the question marks we have about some of the players For some reason, I just like looked away from with him, and that's Malik Neighbors for the New York Giants. I think everybody's super high on him. I definitely am too in terms of like dynasty going forward. But the quarterback play is not something that I'm very excited about. I mean, Jackson Dart looked really good the other day when he was playing. I just saw some of the highlights, obviously, so I don't, keep track of who third team defense he was playing or whatever. But I mean, he looked good. So that's encouraging. But how long is he going to get to play? And then what happens with Winston? Like, does he have to overcome both hurdles? Like, what is that depth chart? I don't know if we'll have tons of clarity. I know they've come out and pretty much just said that Russ is the starter. I think Dable and the whole front office maybe are playing for their jobs. So I don't know when they'll turn over to Jackson Dart and if they will at all, or maybe the season's already sunk. So I'm not a huge fan of Russell in that regards. This toe that apparently has been bothering him since college. He keeps missing practice. I think he had another little injury the other day that missed practice with. That's concerning to me. And the biggest thing to me, and I know we're going to talk, if we got a little bit of time, some Rams later. Right now it seems like the decisions is him, Puka, maybe Drake London, and Brian Thomas Jr. And especially when, comparing him to Puka, it's like I just trust McVay's offense more than I trust the Brian Dable offense, even if it's Jimmy G under center, than I do Russell Wilson with a Brian Dable offense. To me, Puka is just up there in the same, like, I think some people kind of still have that, like, he was a late round pick in their brains and Neighbors was a top 15 pick. I think they're equivalent in skill at the wide receiver position, at least in the NFL. For fantasy, you could talk about different things. I think there's just a little bit of ambiguity about a lot of those guys, and maybe Neighbors is the guy and I'm just wrong, but I think I just would lean other ways in that part of the draft, right? You were talking like back end of the first, after like the top Chase, Lamb, Jefferson, Amon-Ra maybe is around there. But once those big guys have gone, you're kind of left to call your shot. And he's just not the guy I want to call the shot on this year. I know last year it was a ton of targets. There was lots, it was good. I just think if you're drafting him as like the wide receiver 6, you're almost, or 7 off the board, I think you're almost just drafting him at a ceiling. Like if the quarterback play and the injuries are what they seem like, that's my only concern. And I'd just rather take the shot somewhere else. But I think that this is a take that could easily be like proven, dead wrong, and Neighbors finishes wide receiver 1, like it's possible. For me personally, I'm just going other ways at that part of the draft.
No, I get it. I mean, I want to believe in Neighbors so much. I really like Neighbors. But yeah, I haven't really been selecting them all that much either, because I'm with you. Like when it comes to that late first, I've been going other places. Like I think I've been taking Nico Collins over him. I really like Drake London. He's going after him, so that's really never really. And Brian Thomas Jr. is another guy where like I'm looking at both of them, and I don't really want to take either one. Amon-Ra. I was taking a lot of Puka earlier on, and in fact, you've been pounding the table for that argument of like what's the difference between Puka and Jimmy G or Neighbors and Russ Wilson, and I think that's a really valid argument that a lot of people just discount or overlook for whatever reason. But yeah,
Let me just real quick, just to step in there. I mean, the thing with Jimmy G, and I get there was that like what receiver and Adams was complaining that he was going to get killed, and like it's just one of those things that the community has just like latched onto, and it's like Jimmy G just throws hospital balls, and it's like, okay, like is he a beautiful passer of the ball? Like does he always protect? No, but like Adams complaining as a Devo receiver that he isn't getting the ball where he wants. Like it's like that's what I see. Like when anybody talks about Jimmy G, it's like, oh, he's throwing hospital balls, and it's like, okay, but like Derek Carr had like a 12-year career, and pretty much that's all. Like he did that a lot himself. So it's like just because that's the case, and I mean I've seen Puka. He's like a pretty like we've seen him take him some big shots. Like I'm not overly concerned. Like obviously I'm not hoping he like. He gets thrown a bunch of hospital balls, but like Jimmy G was the quarterback when Debo had his year, I'm pretty sure, right, with the 49ers, right? Obviously a decent amount of his, wide receiver 2 overall came from rushing and gadgets, but like I just feel like McVay will get Puka the ball, and that's what I care most about. And the Rams defense looks to be pretty good, and the O-line is pretty good. They're going to have a run game with Kyron. I just think Puka will have his chances, and even if it's Jimmy G, I'm not worried. I'm not worried in terms of like where I have to draft him. Like if Puka was going middle of the first round, okay, now I'm like, oh, but compared to him to Neighbors, I'm okay making the bet on McVay and Puka than, the other way around. But yeah, sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're totally good.
That's just what I hear all the time about Jimmy G, and it's like I don't particularly get it.
No, I mean I've seen Puka slip into the mid-second, right? And I mean if it gets any lower, like if we get word that Matt Stafford's actually not starting the season, I think it will get lower. And I mean if he goes into the third round, like it's just this happens every year with Puka. There's an injury scare or something where his stock slides, and he's always produced. He's one of the most efficient runners, or I mean pass catchers in the NFL when it comes to fantasy. And it's like, yeah, Matt Stafford's a kingmaker, but even without him, like you said, I think McVay will get him the ball. Yeah, and to tie this back into the Neighbors talk too, and why another reason to kind of maybe fade him is the Giants defense is going to be really good this year. And they may not need to be scoring points. They may not be as in catch-up mode as people might think they need to be. I think they're probably just going to rely on pounding the ball with Tyrone Tracy and Scattaboo once he gets healthy. So, hey man, I don't think it's a bad call. I kind of on the same boat. I'm just not fading them completely.
Yeah. And to just a little bit tying back to Dynasty, I mean, anybody that has Neighbors is probably, dime enhancing it. But if you had a team that is a competitor win now and Neighbors is underperforming, there is going to be a window where if he is underperforming and that team isn't getting what they need under Neighbors, you might be able to take let's say an AJ Brown or maybe a guy that's like a little bit that you maybe don't believe in. Like if you had Brian Thomas and he's just putting up more points per game or something like that, where, you could take a less talented guy that is currently this year producing a little bit better or just, having more consistent play and go trade for Neighbors and throw in a second or something like that. People get desperate for wins and, they'd rather have a title than Neighbors on their team for the next 5 years. And then you can capitalize on that. That's kind of the window for Dynasty that I see. I don't think you're ever really going to have a buy low to say, but you could find the manager who's looking for more points per game if Neighbors is struggling because the offense is just not needing to do a lot or not scoring as much, where you might be able to, squeeze that deal in. It's going to be hard, but people do get desperate, especially come, trade deadline time,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, always be looking to, peer off of an overperforming player into someone who's underperforming, but you still feel really good about their talent. Yeah, I like that call a lot. All right, man. I'm going to finish off this segment with my last guy, and that is Chris Olave. It's a hard one. I like Olave. There's a lot going on with him and why his dynasty stock has just really landslided all the way down. I think he's like wide receiver like 30 or maybe even 40 in dynasty rankings. And we're talking about a guy who was, in the wide receiver 12, 13 range like 2 years ago. But yeah, for this year, the Saints are a mess, man. I mean, we still don't know who's going to start, and we don't feel good about either option. It's either Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck tossing the rock to Olave here. Neither inspire confidence. And despite their favorable schedule, the Saints are destined for a top 3 pick next year. I mean, they have, I think, the third or fourth easiest schedule in the league, and their Vegas win total is 5.5. So that should tell you a lot about what Vegas thinks of the Saints, despite having a really favorable schedule. Olave is going in the 7th round, which again, like we were talking about, there's other wide receivers in that 7th round that we'd rather take. I'd rather swing on Ridley and Odunze, who are going right around that same spot. Ridley has, an upgrade to quarterback, and he's really the only, veteran wide receiver that we would trust over there. And then Odunze, I believe in the talent. It's that one's a little scarier with the, Caleb Williams not getting the hype that we'd want him to have in camp and preseason. But I'm just gonna trust that Odunze is the guy that I think he is, and that the coaching change will really propel Odunze into someone that can produce more than Olave could this year. And even guys later. I'd rather have Diggs, who's going around later, or MPJ, Michael Pittman Jr. He's going 4 rounds later in the 11th. And I'll take it over Olave. Like I really like the Colts' chances of competing and putting points on the board over what the Saints have going on. So yeah, I mean, stiff arm Olave and redraft fully this year. I want nothing to do with him. There's way better options at that draft cost. The good news is though, like I think Olave's dynasty value is due to bounce back next year, and more so, I think his value will slide farther when the Saints are in season and they start off 1-5. I think people are going to be out on Olave, and that's going to be the time to buy him, because the Saints are destined for a top 3 pick next year, and they need a quarterback, and they're going into a quarterback heavy draft class. That top 3 pick will most likely be spent on a quarterback. And even if it's a quarterback you don't believe in, Olave's stock will rise based on the hope that quarterback is better than Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler and can revive Olave to elite status again, or back end wide receiver 1. So I think if you can go get Olave for like a second in season, that's a win. It's a huge win, and I would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's kind of one of those scenarios that of a player you just mentioned where, and he'll be like 4 years younger than Ridley, right? Like everybody's kind of back in on Ridley after several disappointing kind of seasons, and it's because of Cam Ward, right? And it's not like Cam Ward was also touted as this like prolific Joe Burrow type of passer, but he went 1 overall, and it's a new shiny, and if you had Ridley on a dynasty team, you could probably have sold him for something now. I mean, you definitely can do the same with Olave, and he'll be a lot younger, right? So I think it's definitely for dynasty one of those really savvy moves that you can get, because I think pretty much everybody at this point has just written Olave's career off. They're like, he's 1 hit away, this and that, and maybe it is true, but if not, then you're talking about a very skilled player, right? He was up there with the Drake Londons and the Garrett Wilsons, right? Those 3 guys came in together, and it was kind of the trifecta of guys, and Olave was seen just as talented as those guys, and the talent hasn't gone away because of concussions, right? Like concussions are, horrible. It sucks to see what he's gone through, but we're not talking about like devastating knee injuries or problematic hammies or, something much worse. We're talking about his physical ability is still completely there. He just needs a quarterback and a better team, and all that could turn around in 1 season. At least his value wise could, right? I don't, maybe even in season you're talking about a second. I mean, some people are probably just desperate to get what they see as a dead asset. Maybe you're throwing a couple thirds, or you're throwing a Calvin Ridley yourself, that type of player. If you're gambling and you're not trying to win this year, I'd much rather try to trade a Diggs, a Ridley, or something for an Olave to a team, and maybe you just got a lotto ticket of a top 24 wide receiver, maybe even top 15 in the future, right? Depending on who the quarterback is and what happens. Because I think if Olave is playing football, the Saints are going to, if they haven't already, I'm trying to remember. I know London and Garrett Wilson got paid, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if Olave has yet. But if he stays healthy this year, they're probably going to extend him, right? which then puts him in a situation to be the wide receiver one at a young age, and hopefully with a better quarterback, he said. So I'm completely in on that plan. I'm holding him in a league. I've had a few people come and talk about him, and I'm like, it's just whatever you're gonna offer me right now is probably just not worth it. Even if it's just like he just turns into nothing in a year. Like, I'd rather just that happen than to give up what could potentially be something of much greater value, right? You never want to sell the dip, and you never want to sell at the lowest point. So
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. I think grabbing him in mid-season for the cheap is a real good investment. I would even go as far to say it's a toasty investment. Uh, I don't know. Anyways, let's jump into the next segment here, man. The Rams woes. All right, man. We kind of touched on this a little bit in the last episode when we talked about training camp injuries with Matt Stafford and his back injury that he's got going on. He's back practicing now. Practicing. I don't know if you've seen the videos, but it doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't look like he's playing football. He's got the red contact jersey on. He's throwing lightly. Yeah, I think we saw him like drop back and just kind of like very like he's throwing a ball to a 5-year-old type of throw.
yeah.
So it's concerning. I don't know what to do with him. I have quite a bit of Stafford this year, and the back injury. Um, I don't like it. I mean, I had a pinched nerve in my neck less than 2 years ago, and that's debilitating, man. Like it's miserable. Like you can't do anything, like and multiple times I would re-injure it just by stumbling or like tripping. So it's like, and this guy's going to get on a football field as the quarterback, and people are going to be trying hitting him. Like it's bad. It's bad vibes. I like for the Rams, and we're gonna try and break down. What do we do with these assets? With Puka, Adams, and Kyron. So I think we already kind of touched on Puka a little bit, but I don't know if there's any more that you want to say on that, man.
No, I mean, I've had my piece. I mean, for Stafford, I have him on a couple super flex teams. Their best ball like, in the toe clan. I'm pretty much just treating him as a non-asset at this point. Like, um, you're not trading him for anything to anybody. I don't have Jimmy G as a backup. He's kind of just a guy there that like I almost 100% would not expect Stafford to finish this season, and it would also not be that surprising if he tries to play and then like game 3 something happens and then he probably retires. My whole thing for the offense going forward is I just bet on good coaches, and good coaches, especially ones that are offensive minded, that have proven they can do it. We saw what he did with Goff. We saw in what he's done with Stafford, and we saw what he did with Cooper Kupp, Puka. The list goes on, right? Kyron Williams, Todd Gurley. So I'm just in on Sean McVay. I'm just putting my eggs in his basket and saying I'm going to lower my expectations for the season, even if right now it seems, so to speak, right, like that Stafford's going to play. I'm going to think it's Jimmy G, and I'm just going to lower my expectations. So with Stafford, Puka could have been the wide receiver 1. I don't think that would have been too crazy out of the range of outcomes, right? Kyron could have been a top 5 maybe running back, something in that range, right? With the offense being and he getting all the workload. I'm just tempering my expectations, but I'm still counting on those players.
Yeah, I think Kyron is kind of the interesting one to me. Like I think he'll probably see a lot more work. But because of that, I think he's also going to see a lot more stacked boxes, right? So it's kind of this meta game of pushing and pulling of I think this is going to be like the prove it year. Like, have you just been surviving on volume and kind of living on the coattails of Matt Stafford, or do you have the skill and talent to kind of take your team and put them on the back when they need you, type of thing? I think I probably lean more that he's been riding the coattails than I would be him being the talented guy kind of carrying the team. But I think he's interesting, at the very least, this year, where he'll see the workload that he's seen in the past, where he's getting like 80% of the touches. Um, and if that is true, maybe that does just open up Puka and Adams. It's not like they're dead weight, and if Jimmy G is competent enough to get the ball to those two guys, with those three weapons alone, I think that the Rams can still move the ball. And like you said, like Puka goes from being, the ceiling of wide receiver one to like probably like and a back end wide receiver one type of thing. So I don't think he's toast. I still like Puka, and especially if you're getting him as like the wide receiver 14 or 15, I think that's a steal. I'm also really curious to see how Devontae Adams is, how his ADP is, changes with the news of Stafford if he does end up being out. I think he's going to slide to be even more of a value than he is now. I think we got him in our keeper startup where it's like a baby dynasty. We got him in the 12th, 11th round, something like that.
Yeah, and he was our wide receiver 3 or 4. So in that situation, I'm okay with Adams. I had Adams on a team, and then an opportunity came on to trade for Puka. So I did. So I had both, and then when the Stafford news started getting as worrisome as it did, I actually went ahead and flipped Adams for Ridley. Just traded one old guy for another on a contending team. But Adams is actually the one I'm most scared of. I know he's super talented. I know he's been, one of the best wide receivers of the last like 10 years. But that's where I think things start to fall apart, at least in terms of I haven't seen his ADP move much. It seems like most people are panicking on Puka. He's kind of the biggest guy who's slid. I haven't seen Adams move much, at least from what I've seen in drafts. He's kind of still been going around that old vet type of range, but I think that's where with Jimmy G things get really dicey. With Stafford, his volume, his ability to make every throw, Adams I think fit like a glove, and I was really excited. But now it's like I think there's only going to be room for one wide receiver to be relevant. I really am worried that Adams won't even be able to finish. I mean, there's stuff where like some of the things that have happened with Adams that like in the Raiders and the Jets, like different things, like he might try to just force his way out again, or something crazy. Like I could see something like that. But even if he's there the whole year, I have a hard time if it's Jimmy G for 15 games, 14 games, whatever, 10 games. I have a hard time seeing Adams being that fantasy relevant, especially in shallower wide receiver formats. Like if you're only starting 2 wide receivers, unless you for whatever reason punted, it's going to be hard to see him even going into your flex. Like I just feel like you're not going to feel very, very good about putting him in, week out, unless you're decimated or by apocalypse or something. But he's not the type. He's not the guy you were hoping would be a good flex play week in, week out. The way we took him, our wide receiver room was pretty good already. He's kind of just like, well, if Stafford does play, then wow, we, even Adams now we have to start. But I don't think we're really like relying on him very much. So yeah, man, I think what you said with Kyron, I think I disagree a little bit. I think he is the talent. I've always believed in sorry, in Kyron. It's just going to be like, how many touchdowns can they score? It might be, one of those like Saquon Barkley type of situations where like you see the talent, but just the team's just not good enough to get in a position for him to score enough touchdowns. But I'm pretty comfortable where he's going. He might not be like the selection I make every time right now in redraft, but I'm comfortable with his ADP. I think I don't, I'm not too scared about it. He seems like, like you said, he's going to be a workhorse. He got the contract now, so I anticipate McVay next 2 years give him like all the touches possible as long as he's healthy, and then dump him to the curb like Todd Gurley style, like use him and dump him and whatever. But yeah, man, it's definitely one of the biggest I think swings that you got to take, especially like Puka and Kyron, because they're decently drafted high, and it's like one of those that like can kill your team if it goes wrong. Like even if Puka is in back of the first or middle of the second, and you swing on him and you pass up Drake London, or depending how far he's fallen, it's going to feel really, really bad, and it's going to be hard to come back from. So I understand the worry. I understand people being scared.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'm not out on Kyron altogether. Like I still like his situation. I'm really curious to see how it'll evolve. I have a couple instances of selling Kyron, but also buying Kyron. So in that keeper league that we were talking about last time, where I had all those hard decisions of like 7 different keepers, Kyron was one of them. I ended up selling Kyron for a 5th round pick in that keeper league, where he was kept in the 7th. And the guy, who was trading for him, he was like, "This is a really good deal. I can't turn this down." And I had a lot of those deals on the table, like JT in the 6th, neighbors in the 3rd. I was even willing to give up Jaden Daniels in the 12th, and no one hit me up. This guy was like, "This is a really good deal," and we did the draft tonight actually, and I kind of regretted getting rid of him. Like Kyron in the 7th is just a really good pick in general. And especially in this league, they're really running back thirsty. Like the running backs go really, really quick. I was able to get Saquon in the 1st, had the 3rd overall pick. And then I got Travion in the 2nd. And I was really hoping to get RJ Harvey coming back in the 3rd, but he went. And really like the Omari and Hampton went the pick before me in the 2nd. So it's kind of like um, I was really regretting, not keeping in Kyron in that situation. I think I would have been better off. And in the case where I'm trying to buy him, someone came around asking for a wide receiver in one of my best ball dynasty leagues, and I have Jerry Jeudy on the block. I've been trying to get rid of him, and he also said he's interested in Sam Darnold, who I have on our team. So I sent him Sam Darnold, Jerry Jeudy, and DeAndre Swift, looking to get back Kyron. Uh, who else was in the deal? Oh, Isaiah Likely and Juwan Jennings. For me, like Jeudy and Juwan Jennings are kind of the same, and if I can upgrade from Swift to Kyron and only have to pay Sam Darnold, like I have, other competent quarterbacks that I can deal with. So uh, I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'm hoping that one I can get that one done.
Yeah, man, I think those are good deals. Talking about good deals, actually, I wanted to harp back on this one. I don't know if you remember. I remember last offseason, it was a pretty big move. You just random. I came to my mind because we've been talking all the news, like with Tyreek Hill, where you traded him away for JSN, and man, that trade is looking like a steal for you now. I mean, it was what, like Hollywood Brown, JSN, a 3rd for Tyreek Hill, and a 4th. I remember when the trade went down and just thinking, wow, like I'm on the Tyreek Hill side. But it shows you how quickly things can change, especially in Dynasty. You if you make those bets, you can come out way ahead, right? And it's just your own conviction of doing that. You were really bought in that JSN was gonna break out. He did. Tyreek Hill is like now nobody even knows. I mean, maybe he has a bounce back year, but it's looking pretty bleak. So, I mean, I think you still have JSN, right? Toclan too, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a big part of your, title contention this year compared to having Tyreek Hill on your team. So, yeah, just because you were talking about trades as you were talking about, it made me think of that, and I wanted to harp back because it was a great situation of some of these things we're talking about, like JSN after his first year, right, had kind of underperformed. That nobody, people were kind of down on him. You took the bet. You traded away a premier, right, like as it's called, asset in Tyreek Hill at the time, and you got a young wide receiver. And now, it's not always going to work out that way, obviously, but I think it's just one of those things, harpens to like, hey, you got an idea, you really love whatever the player is, right? We talk about Chris Olave or, Drake London's getting steamed up, whatever the player is, right? You just, fantasy is supposed to be fun. So, go get your guy, man. Like, even if it doesn't end up working out, at least I'd rather lose with my own conviction, my own thoughts, my own, ideas than just to like follow a spreadsheet or follow, whatever this guy's ranking is or whoever, and lose that way, just kind of little random tangent, but it made me think about it when you're talking about your trades.
No, it's good, man. Like imagine having that conviction on Kyron last off season, right? I mean, when they drafted Blake Corum, the world ended for Kyron. I
Punt
think he was,
returner.
yeah, right. I think he was going for like seconds and stuff like that. And I mean, imagine buying in now or then and now having, you know, a first plus on your hand. Not only that, but just the production that he's
Right.
putting up. So yeah, man, I love having the conviction on the players. I wish I had more of it for Kyron. But let's loop it back here to the Rams. And if Stafford is out, you know, like Jimmy G under center, like where do you think he goes this season and kind of finishes fantasy wise? Is he relevant in superflex leagues and like starting for people?
Um, Probably not, right? Like, I mean, most chances is that he's going to be really a best ball, I think, asset only, right? Because it's going to be really hard to know when he's going to play. I don't think even when he was with the 49ers, he was very fantasy relevant. I can't remember him being even a super flex. So, I mean, he's the type of guy that if you're like doing a startup now, you're or a super flex, redraft, you're kind of maybe grabbing, throwing it at the end of your bench in case he becomes a starter. And then now maybe in the 13th round or whatever, you grab the starter and he can be your third quarterback. But I don't want to be relying on him in any way, shape, or form outside of like, he's my QB3 to fill in for bye weeks. That's like pretty much it. And, especially because on super flex leagues, the waiver wire tends to be pretty bleak. So he's a guy who don't mind just like throwing in at the end of my bench, because chances are he's probably starting some games. So maybe he can just be a fill in. And, but even then, like, you might have drafted a good team where you feel better about a wide receiver or running back to throw in there, to be honest. I'm confident in McVay's offense to keep the pieces alive and Jimmy G to do enough that they'll be still fantasy relevant. But even Stafford himself, when he was healthy, was not super fantasy relevant most years. Like, I think I remember looking at it recently, he had like a couple finishes in the top like 15. Like, he was great, right? Even in Cooper Kupp's like triple crown year, like he was not quarterback 5 or anything. He just did enough to get his pieces. Like you said, he made kings, but he was never the king himself. And Jimmy G is half or even worse than that of a player that Stafford is. So
yeah, no, I tend to think in the same lines. Like in fact, when the Niners finally traded Jimmy G to the Raiders, I was celebrating because I was like, I don't have to root for this guy anymore, which is just great. I mean, because he was just never the guy, and like you said, he wasn't fantasy relevant. He was good enough and competent enough to run the offense the way Shanahan needed him to. So I don't know if McVay can, put him to the use the same way that Shanahan did. But yeah, I think you're right. I think overall, like, he probably ends up being, like a mid to low end QB3 if he actually does become a starter here for any significant time.
yeah,
All right, man.
I mean,
what you got?
Oh, just one final thought with that is just like, people are willing to bet on Aaron Rodgers or like, some of these Russell Wilson, some of these other offenses with these old guys or, rookie quarterbacks or Bryce Young, who, he's younger, but I mean, he hasn't shown anything, who have worse coaching. So, to me, that's just to beat the horse that's already dead for this episode. It's just, I'm just willing to make that bet with Jimmy G and McVay. But yeah, man,
I just thought of something, man. Like Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Anthony Richardson. Like, if there was a zero QB strategy, these would be the guys to target.
Yeah, that would be the craziest. I throw in maybe a Joe Flacco in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man.
All right, man. Yeah, let's get on the outro here, and let's wrap up what we had as another great episode. Hopefully you saw the light, and you're going to go dump all your Kyle Pitts shares, and get down and cleanse yourself, and hopefully get some points here. But all seriousness, man, great episode here. Yeah, hopefully we can get some new graphics here going and talk about something else.
Yeah, for sure, man. I loved it. The intervention at the beginning. Yeah, like you said, man, great episode as always. Future First podcast here, trying to help you with a dynasty forward mindset. And it was a great time, man. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for hopping on. Till next time, guys. Future First, Jose and Jmac.